What's going on, guys? This is the Poke Tea Time podcast where we serve you up a cup of the hottest takes on what's going on in the Pokemon community. We have Pokemon enthusiasts right here this evening with us. I'm NotShivam. This is Pokemon enthusiast. Before we get right into it, guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I know that today is Thursday, and I typically don't have the podcast on Thursday evenings, but we are because this is a jam-packed week. There's a lot of intense things that are currently happening right now. We might touch on it tonight if you'd like to. But, yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. If you are listening to us through Spotify or Apple, make sure you give us a 5-star review. We are really, really close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on this podcast, and we will be officially monetized on this platform. And just lots of cool things coming. I just got the new logo, a beta version of the logo, you could say, of what the rebrand will look like. So it's really, really cool. I'm really stoked as to what's happening, what's to come. Thank you for joining us, Josh, aka Pokemon Enthusiast. What's going on, man?
How are you,
hey,
man?
Pretty good. It's an honor to have you. You've been on this long list of people that I've wanted to, eventually have on the podcast. I was trying to have Brown Eyes on here, but he's a very, very busy man, so we'll eventually get him at some point this month. But yeah, how's your day been going, man?
Dude, it's been busy. Like I was telling you earlier, I got a jam-packed week coming. I've been trying to get my submissions back from PSA, get new submissions out. I mean, look, I'll even show you. I have a little tiny stack right here of subs I'm going to be taking to PSA next week. Probably this week, actually. So yeah, it's been busy, man. Other than that, thank God I'm not in school this semester. I have summer off, prepping for fall, final semester at school, and then I'm done. Yeah, other than that, I've been good, dude.
Yeah, you've been pretty busy. So we're not gonna talk about it here. We're gonna let Pokemon enthusiasts and all of his gang. Well, I wouldn't say gang. All of his clientele and business partners reveal that information later. But what he just showed me is actually really, really cool. So if you aren't following Pokemon Enthusiast, it's Pokemon_enthusiast97 on Instagram. Make sure you're following him there, and you'll get the rundown of all the cool stuff he's doing. But before anyone follows you, tell us who you are. Tell us how you got into Pokemon. Obviously, it's probably the same sort of story as most of us, but there's always that, there's always nuances to everyone's story that's a little bit different for every person. But to a certain, the cool thing about that is that as passionate people in this hobby, we can sort of relate to those smaller nuances that you might have. So kind of tell us how you got into the hobby, what got you to where you are now, and if you can kind of tell us the current stuff that you're doing within this current space and what you plan on doing next. And so we'll go through this podcast, touching on all these different things about who you are as an individual and how you got to where you are. And the main subject tonight is grading in 2022. And obviously your area of expertise is with PSA because that's what you're mostly involved with, but I'm sure you have a vast amount of knowledge when it comes to all these other different grading services and why you prefer PSA over the rest, or you might have a different outlook on these different grading companies. Not saying that this is your opportunity to crap on them. It's just more so like, what's your opinion on these, and if you could provide any sort of value to the viewers out there watching this, I think that's like the most beneficial way to go about this. Sorry, I look like a mess. I legit just got done lifting, so I drove right back home and then set everything up.
Like this, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking rough. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and start with how you got involved with Pokemon. Like, bring us back to.
I think I started collecting Pokemon back in 2000. I want to say in 2001, 2002. I was 5 at the time. And what's funny is I actually have a stack of binders next to me from all the cards. What's kind of left of them when I was piecing them out before COVID had happened. But yeah, I was actually a game collector. So I played the original. I started with, I want to say, Fire Red, Leaf Green. I played some of yellow, played some of blue. I don't actually have blue with me. but I do have Fire Red with me right now. I have a bunch of other Pokemon stuff that's not at this location, but I started playing the games and I collected the cards. Now, back in 2002, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Pokemon wasn't popular. Um, and then kind of during the EX era, I was like heavily opening boxes. I was going to local Franks back in the day, buying cases with buddies of mine, cases of Deoxys, ripping them, trying to pull gold stars, um, opening up Dragon Frontiers, everything EX era I was ripping. Um, and in that time frame, I was amassing a crazy collection. I think I was going for every EX card I thought at the time, and back then, I was so young. We didn't really have the sources we do now, where we have all these websites showing you set lists. eBay was kind of your go-to, and I wasn't like I was today, where I knew exactly what I was doing. So I had my parents' help, and I bought a ton of cards. They bought me a ton of cards, and I bought cards myself. Money for my birthday, I would go buy a case or a box of EX era, because back then boxes were like $85. I think I bought a Crystal Guardians box for like 92 or 87, something like that. Some crazy number, right? That box is like $15,000 now. But I was ripping them for fun, right? And over the years, I just collected and collected. I even bought the toys like you. Like all the toys in the background you have, I have. I have some of them. I have stuff you probably haven't seen. Um, and I collected up until about, I want to say, when Majestic Dawn came out, because I opened up the first Diamond and Pearl set, and I think I opened up like Secret Wonders, and I think I stopped there. Um, it was basically because Pokemon wasn't popular. If you collected Pokemon, you were like the local nerd, right?
Yeah.
So I put it in binders and I forgot about it. Um, and what was crazy is I have been following some of the largest like the OG names, right? So Cool Trainer Ryan, Gem and Pokemon. Shout out to Zach.
Shout out to Zach.
Charizard Authority for anybody who knows the OG days of TCA gaming.
Yeah.
Before PokeRev existed, I mean, I was watching these guys all the time. Leonhardt, when he was living in his tiny apartment, screaming videos of pulling a Burning Shadows Charizard. Like, I was watching videos from, I think when Pokemon Go came out, I got back into it. So I started watching videos from then up until about 2019. And then I was like, okay, I've waited long enough. I think I want to get back into the hobby. And this is like this is at the beginning of 2019. So I would say before COVID started. But
I
I
mean,
had missed that boom.
COVID was 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started the pre-year before the COVID
So
explosion had
yeah,
happened.
solid 2019. Yeah.
All 2019, and I started after the Pokemon Go explosion. So Pokemon had seen that explosion period from I think 14 or 15 to about 16, 17, and then it kind of consolidated and slowed down, and then COVID happened. But I jumped in like right around a really sweet spot in Pokemon where you could buy cards for cheap. I remember Rusty was selling these mystery boxes that were $5,000, and you were guaranteed a WotC box. So that was either base set, first ed fossil, first ed rocket, jungle unlimited, rocket unlimited. Like we're guaranteed a WotC box, which is crazy to think now because base set I think is sitting at about $12,000 to $15,000.
Yeah.
Max like 35 during COVID.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to buy one, and I was like, dude, $5,000, Josh, that's insane for some like 18, 19-year-old kid. Like that's crazy. So I went back through my binders and my collections, and I started looking at cards I had. And I was like, you know what? I had a second. I'll make an Instagram account, and I had a second one at the time that I never used. And I was like, okay, like let's just make this the name. Let's make this the account. And I changed. I think it was like something Joshua something. I ended up changing the name to Pokemon Enthusiast. I wanted Pokemon Enthusiast, but the owner of the account, I can't get it. So I put the Pokemon Enthusiast, and then 97 was the year I was born. I figured, okay, we'll run with that. And I started, and it was like when I started, like the community was like really different than what it is today, right? You could find product, you can buy stuff. Burbank wasn't the atmosphere it is today with the amount of people that were in it. I think there was like, I want to say 12,000 people in Burbank. Don't quote me. I might be wrong. I might be off by a few thousand. But you were at a time when you can buy, like, for example, let me pull a card. All right, I'll show you a card. First card I ever bought, right? I bought a, which isn't probably going to show up on camera well, a
It,
Gold
it's a
Star
it's a PSA 10, guys.
PSA 10 Gold Star Trico. Now, anybody who knows this card, it's a very expensive Gold Star. It's, I think, pop 42. When I joined, it was pop 30, 32, I think, 31 or 32.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and what's crazy is that there's 10 that's been graded since. But I bought this card for $1,100. Now, to put that into perspective, this card during COVID in 2020 went to like, I think, 8,000, 8,500, and I had people offering me 10,000 privately. Just to put that in perspective, right, on how much explosion Pokemon had during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, I was like, okay, like I was going through my cards. I had EX cards. I started like looking at stuff I wanted to grade because PSA had their bulk order offers at like $7.50 a card. Um, and so I got in heavy at the end of 2019. And then the beginning of 2020, I was like all in. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start selling my collection. I'm gonna start piecing out my cards, and I'm gonna use the money to essentially finish the gold stars I needed. And at the time, I had pulled, I think, out of all the EX era boxes I've had opened, I want to say I've opened over 100 boxes. I've opened up at least one case of every EX era set. I've opened up one case at least because, and the reason why I say that is because I have the gold stars from Deoxys. I pulled both of these. I pulled a Torchic that I don't have anymore. I graded an 8. I pulled that from Rocket. I had the Reggies. I had Metagross from Delta. I had the Unseen Forces. I think I had like a. I don't think I pulled the Reggies. Didn't open up that much of Legend Maker.
Mm-hmm.
We opened up probably a case, but I don't think we ever hit a gold star. Um, I had Celebi. I had Mew. I pulled Gyarados. What else did I pull? I pulled one of the Evolutions. I can't remember. And then I pulled Umbreon, which was the recent one I pulled in 2020. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go after the gold star set, right? So I figured, okay, I'm going to grade some of my EX cards, I'm going to sell some of them, and then the money I make from that, I'm going to buy the remaining set. Now, at the time, the set was obtainable, right?
Yeah.
Where Gold Star Ray was $5,000 in a 10. I could buy it for 42, 4,500 about. And Torchic was about 5,000, I think, if you could find one. And everything else, Charizard was about 4,000, 4,500, I want to say. Everything else was really affordable, $1,000. You know, the dogs were like $300. I bought Entei for $3, $300. You know, really cheap cards that are just like astronomical prices now. So yeah, I went really heavy into the hobby, and I had a guy end up buying my EX collection from me, which essentially like started my buying spree. I was able to buy 3 10s at once.
Sorry to interrupt you. David's in here. He says gold star's overrated. He, and I approve this message.
Oh, hi David.
We were
David,
just talking about you.
Um, so I bought 3 gold stars. I bought 3 of them for my buddy Octavio, Pokemon Argentina, and he sold me Mewtwo, Regirock, and Flareon. So I bought those 3, and then I kind of just slowly started to acquire them. And then what ended up happening is COVID hit, right? And then everything I had sold to my guy that I originally sold my EX cards, they all like quadrupled. I was so bummed. I was like, dude, I knew I shouldn't have sold my graded set. And he ended up grading them and hitting like 20 PSA 10s of EX
Oh
cards. I
my
mean,
god, that is nasty.
Lugia hit a 10, Charizard hit a 10,
Oh,
Umbreon hit a 9, Mew EX hit a 10 from Legend Maker. Dude, Sneasel, Team Rocket return cards, Suicune, like I mean, I had so many.
dude,
I had
all
9,
those are bangers. Yeah.
yeah, I had like so many good cards, and I have the photos on my Instagram. Like, if people go to the very, very bottom, you can see the cards I had in my binders. Um, yeah, so COVID like kind of
Salado Cell said, you sold your soul to the devil.
I did. I really did. So I poured all this money into the hobby, and then COVID happened, and then everything overnight like quadrupled. Where cards were going from 5 to 20K. They were disappearing off the market. There was this massive amount of hype coming into this hobby, and my account grew, and I met this incredible crew at Frank's called Pause Joker Games. Shout out to them.
They're really nice guys. Dude, they're so funny too. I love whenever I go to these conventions, I love talking to those guys. They always make my day whenever I see their table. Just like I love talking
Yeah,
to them. They're hilarious.
yeah. Pierre's funny, dude. We have a lot of good laughing moments. We have good times and bad times, but I appreciate them. I've had a really good run with them, and it really started because of like hidden fates.
Mm.
So like when COVID happened, like Frank's closed and then it opened up, and I wanted to go back to Frank's because I hadn't been to Frank's in like 5, 6 years because my buddy used to actually have a booth there. And during COVID, Frank's was like very tight restrictions, so I waited in line for like 2 hours to get in. And when I got in, I started seeing these videos of this guy opening up hidden fates, and he couldn't hit a shiny Charizard. I was like, dude, this guy, like, what is this? He's ripped like 150 packs and he still hasn't pulled one. I pulled one on my first 10 when I bought one on my own. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see this guy. So I go to their booth and I ended up buying a Deoxys pack and ripping it, and I didn't hit anything. I ripped a Deoxys pack. Fun. Yeah, I know. A $40,000. Well, I think it's like $30,000 now. $30,000 box. I was opening the
Still,
pack for
that
just
is
fun.
intense. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I know, dude. It's. I mean, I did that. I've opened up pop five packs. I mean,
Dude,
I'm game.
I remember buying base set no Team Rocket packs for $40 in 2019. I mean, yeah, in 2019, and I was still scared to open it. This is at a time like in 2019 where I just didn't have the level of liquidity that I currently have that I'm able to spend on a week to week or a month to month basis. Like back then, I was still trying to figure out how to get beat up vintage hollows from back then. I was still I was trying to hit thrift stores and stuff like that. So like that's
Dude, back.
yeah, like I'm sort of like I'm envious, but in a good envious way. Like you were like
Yeah.
buying, like you were actually more well adjusted to the prices, and you knew what was actually going on. I have to ask, um you know with you selling a lot of the stuff, were you able to like, let's say, consolidate a lot of the money that you had at that time to buy bigger cards, or what it if it went to
Um,
something personal, obviously I can totally understand that, but
no. So I'll tell you. I sold 92 EX cards that were gradable. Sold them for $3,500. Now, the cards I just named you, Lugia alone during COVID when it went to the moon, a PSA 9 was like $1,000. I had two
yeah,
copies. One got a 10, one got a 9. And that card went to like I think $10,000 in a 10. So I sold two Lugias, two Charizards, like two of every card. So like cards at that time, like you could find raw mint Charizards for $100, like $50, and they would grade nines.
yeah,
Dratini did really well doing that. Danny graded, he bought raws all day, and they graded nines and tens. He's the king of nines. Um, that's kind of the joke. He grades a ton of cards, and he always has a bunch of nines. And he was buying raw cards, 10, $20, $5, $4, no symbols people didn't know where no symbols were. They were
I
buying them
didn't
for
know, yeah,
price of a hollow card, like a jungle unlimited hollow, but they didn't know it was a no symbol, and he was buying it for cheap. And like to answer your question, consolidating, the most amount of money I think I've ever spent on a card is 5,000 and something dollars.
Gold
I
Star
bought a
Rayquaza.
gold star mudkip,
Ah,
SA10, the card I wanted for the longest time. I chased it for a while. I could have bought it and I contemplated on buying it. I had the opportunity to buy this or another card. I bought another card instead. Um, I bought three cards instead. I bought the Mewtwo, I bought the Regirock and Flareon instead of buying Mudkip. And this was the hardest card to buy. And what ended up happening is this card like tripled. I couldn't find one, and it bugged me because my favorite Gold Star set of all time is Team Rocket Returns. Like
yeah,
I will get Torchic's like my next goal, but it's hard.
it's very expensive.
Just
Yeah,
you know, high five figure card,
yeah,
and to get a good copy, and it's like it's so that like you said, willing to spend $40 on a pack or spending 40,000 on a card is very hard to justify.
yeah,
you know some people $40 is a lot, even $5 is a lot, and
yeah,
40,000 is more than what people make in a year. And I can't justify putting that on a single card, at least right now, because it's
yeah.
like I can put my money into so many other things in Pokemon. I could eventually make more and then buy the card, selling the cards I bought.
What is it?
Like
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but like in your logo as well, like you do have a gold star there. So what is it like you've had, a decent amount of experience opening numerous amounts of boxes with all sorts of big different like all sorts of different chases. So like what was it about gold stars that made you say like this is what I want to collect and this is what I want to have? Like why are gold star cards so desired by yourself? Because like I mean obviously you grew up opening those sort of packs, especially in a time where Pokemon wasn't popular, but what was it about it specifically that said that basically told you like, hey, I want this? What was it about Fukuda and his artwork that drew you to that specific thing?
Quite frankly, I didn't even know. So when I was opening up EX cards, I thought the actual EX cards themselves were more scarce than the gold stars. I didn't
Hmm.
know. I knew that they were different because they were in. I have a special binder. I can actually. I'll show you off camera. I have a reverse hollow binder with hollows in them, and I had these cards in there. And I didn't know these cards were essentially the shiny version of its counterpart.
Mm.
Because I was young, I just played the game. I never like did research into shiny Pokemon. I
Dude,
never
I
like
never
paid
ran
attention.
into shiny Pokemon except like the red Gyarados and silver version. That's
Yeah,
it.
the first shiny Pokemon I ran into was a Geodude, and it self-destructed. It was
Mm.
like it was so random. I never paid attention to that. I played the game. I maxed my Pokemon at level 100 in Emerald. I played the heck out of that game, and then I played Diamond and Pearl, and then I stopped. I
Yeah.
didn't play after Diamond and Pearl.
Same.
And during that time, like I didn't know the gold stars were actually more scarce than the EX cards. So when I ended up going through my binders and finding these, I was like, dude, these cards, I love the artwork. I think just some of the artwork is just so incredible on these cards that they haven't been replicated since. Like I know like Sun and Moon era and Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield are great, but nothing beats EX in my opinion. I know we have WotC fans. I know we have Skyridge fans. Like everybody from WotC era, they love base set, they love Skyridge, they love Gym Challenge. My favorite set of WotC outside of
Mm.
E series, Gym Challenge is my favorite by far. Nothing else touches it in my opinion. But EX did it so differently, and I don't think the audience really understands that. Pokemon was, I think 2006 or 2008. Don't quote me. They were going to declare bankruptcy, right? I mean, you could walk into a Target and find thousands of dollars worth of packs on the shelves. Those EX era tins that people are ripping and going like, "Oh my god, this Tyranitar is like a $20,000 card." Those were sitting on shelves. Nobody was buying this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you did, it was so dirt cheap that distros just wanted to get rid of it because it was so low printed and it wasn't a great time for Pokemon. So when I look at this set, it's like, dude, I'm more of a collector. Like, I just collect the artwork. I didn't care about monetary value. It was irrelevant. That just came with the side effect of
Yeah,
Pokemon.
yeah, yeah. That was the cherry on top.
Yeah, I wanted to just collect cards I loved, and I wanted to finish all 27. And what's funny is the reason why I'm still chasing this goal is because I've had one individual tell me I'm never going to finish it, and I'm gonna finish it
Ah,
just in spite of that. I'm gonna finish it, and um, I want to be one of the only people. Like people have asked me, like, why don't you put your name on the registry and put like how many gold stars you have? And I'm like,
huh.
I don't care for that. Like, I don't really care to post my cards 24/7 or tell people like, oh yeah, I have this card in a 10 now. Um, it's just when it comes up, it comes up. But like, I liked these cards themselves because the artwork, in my opinion, for that era outside of EX cards, like they were incredible. And I feel like Pokemon missed some. They did miss some incredible cards they could have done, like Lugia is a big one talked about, or Ho Ho, or God, there's another card I can't think of, but those two alone, I think they could have made this a 30 card subset and it would have been great. I mean, even the Pop Series ones, Umbreon and Espeon, I hate those for the English version. I want the Japanese play promos really badly.
Yeah,
Shout
but
out
they're
to Crystal.
expensive.
Yeah, Crystal Pokemon Palatown's brother. He knows I want his Espeon really bad because I find those are incredible artworks
Yeah.
outside of like the Pop 5. I feel like Pop Series 5 they dropped the ball. I mean, they could have made them promos for God's sakes for us too,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't. So I don't know, dude. I like the fact that these cards were so cool, and it made it a challenge for me. Um, trying to find tens and trying to buy them and really collecting this very niche subset, or not subset, but this niche set within this really big EX era, not to mention the amount of quantity of boxes that were out there. I just thought it was really cool, and it paid off, right? But it
Yeah.
was never my intention to, hey, I'm gonna buy this set and I'm gonna flip the set. It was, I was gonna buy this set. I was gonna do a special project with this set to where I had certain things made for each card specifically,
Hmm.
and then I was never gonna sell my set. And then I was like, okay, well, if I were to piece my set out, I would keep 3 cards, which would essentially be the Team Rocket Returns trio,
Trio. Yeah.
have them all in tens, and I would never sell them ever, ever, ever. I don't care if somebody offered me $1 million. I just personally wouldn't want to sell this set, because they're my favorite cards in the entire 27. Um, so
What
that's
have
kind of
you?
how it.
Before we get back to, because we kind of went off on a tangent, but like, what were your thoughts when Fukuda did the Gold Star Greninja? Do you have that in a PSA 10 too now?
I actually don't.
Huh.
So when they did that card in a 10, um, I was kind of waiting because I was like, okay, this card it's going to be really easy to get.
Yeah,
It's not on
absolutely.
top of the list, right? Like, it's a great artwork.
Yeah.
I don't like the hollow pattern. I think if they would have taken the old hollow pattern, it would have done really well, in my opinion. Because I don't know, the new one looks kind of cheap, or the artwork is great,
Yeah.
but the pattern doesn't go with the card itself, in my opinion. But I did like the fact that they made Greninja. It was just like, I would have done more Pokemon too. Like,
Yeah.
the Pokemon 25th anniversary set, they could have done so much more, and I feel like they
Yeah.
left out a lot. I don't know why they did, but I'm not Pokemon. If I was Pokemon, I would have put in a lot of favorites. I would have redone crystals. I would have redone gym cards. I would have redone base cards. I would have redone like every set, taken the favorite cards and just thrown them all into one lot.
Yeah.
Even from EX era too, the EX cards, the gold stars alone. Revamp the artwork or add new cards. Like for Alligator, that was like a missed artwork, or Typhlosion or Meganium or Lugia or Ho-Ho, throwing those cards in there in that set and kind
I
of
think they
spiced it
did
up.
it based on like cards that were super important in terms of
Playable.
playability.
Yes.
So, I think this is like a kind of cool segue to touch on you grading the creatures deck. Um
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just for people who are in here or people who will watch this, kind of explain to the average person, well, kind of explain to people who will watch this or who are watching this, what is the creatures deck, what's the significance behind it, and like talk to us about how like that came into your hands and how you were able to grade that.
Okay. So as far as the background knowledge, I will tell everybody in here, if you know who Swolepoke is, Jeremy, he made an incredible YouTube video on it. He can tell you in depth. He knows way more than I do about this, when it comes to like the details. And he told me a handful of stuff, but I will say this: that creature deck, how the owner, I don't want to tell anybody who the owner is, but like the owner, if you know me, you know who the owner is. You've talked to the owner, but Jeremy said it really best, where it was like this, like all the cards, I guess, were like the most playable cards from the eras that they were in. I think outside of Charizard and the Chansey were the only 2 cards that weren't heavily playable.
Right.
Everything else in that deck was extremely playable. And then I believe he said on the back, gave an explanation of the card or something else within the set. Um, and as to my knowledge, Jeremy told me, I think to my knowledge, I don't know if they have an exact count on how many boxes they made. I think he was saying around 300. Like I said, he does an entire in-depth analysis video. Quite frankly, I watched it the first time. I thought it was an incredible opening he did. I watched it the first time, great explanations, everything, but I haven't watched it since. So I think they made 300 sets. They gave them all to the artists and the people that were actually involved with that, and then they kind of just disappeared, right?
Yeah.
I Two popped up on the market. I can't remember the gentleman, his first name. He graded an entire. I think he's missing 2 cards in a PSA 10. He has almost an entire 10 set, and then my client's 10 set, which
I think only collectibles just graded an entire set of the
that's what
creatures
it
deck.
is. Only
Yeah.
collectibles. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the gentleman. He's the first one to grade a creature deck.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of tens. He got a 10, I think, on his Chansey and Charizard. And the chart was crazy. Is the Charizard I graded? I think the centering on the one I graded was way better than the one he has.
Mm.
I think like his card's great, right? I'm glad he got a 10, but like for centering and eye appeal, I feel like the card I graded was way better. Um, And I know a few other clients have graded a few Charizards. They have nines as well. But yeah, so the person opened up the box and they were kind of contemplating whether they wanted to actually open the deck. And they were like, you know what? They saw Collectible Investor or Collectibles open his, and they were like, you know what? Let's go for it, right? So they cracked it, and I looked at them, and I was like, dude, I really think we have a shot at getting a bunch of tens. And they were like really skeptical. They were like, no, I don't know. The centering looks off. I was like, oh, we'll see. Let's take a gamble at it. Let's try it out because like there's only if it's only 300 sets, I feel like that's going to be if you're a huge buyer, if you're somebody who buys Pokemon to hold and you have money, that's something I would buy. I would buy that. I can't buy that anymore. That's I've heard that box is like $75,000-$100,000 now, just sealed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I hear buyers offering that and they're not selling, or sellers offering, or yeah, buyers offering that and nobody's selling.
I would just
Um,
honestly, I would just love to have like one card out of that entire deck. Yeah,
just
it's just
dude,
like to me the like it's cool, like the stamp is cool and all, but like I like the back of these cards. They're like each of them have its own like detailed story about something within Pokemon history, and I just think that's like the coolest thing about it. Just like giving me a little bit of insight as to what happened. Um, and I think that's super cool.
yeah, and Pokemon, I don't think is going to do that again. That was like the first time they had ever done something to that kind of standard. And I think what Jeremy, excuse me, told me was they had done that on purpose to try to keep the cards from being expensive. And in reality, it did the exact opposite. It
Opposite, yeah.
enticed collectors to want to buy them because you never see cards with these full detailed explanations. So, yeah, I graded the creature deck, and what was crazy is we hit, I think, 18 out of 30 were 10s. 18 out of 30. 12 cards were not PSA 10, and it was like really debatable. I was looking at them going, man, we can regrade this. We can regrade this one. The Chansey wasn't going to get a 10. It was off centered. The Charizard was better centering, so we were like really happy about that. Um, and the rest of the cards in the deck, I mean, all the like big time hitters got 10s, which was great to see. And my client was happy. They were like, I'm not selling. My set's going into my collection, and it's going to stay like that. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if they're going to sell their nines to buy 10s if the 10s come out. I haven't even looked at the pop report since we graded it because I had graded the only second set ever after Collectibles graded his. So it was a big moment, dude. It was. I was very, very pleasured to be able to know these individuals that I've met, to where they've trusted me enough to say, "Hey, Josh, here's $100,000 collection. Take care of it and get them the grades they deserve, or see the joy on their face when they get a 10. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, because Pokemon's all about, right now it's all about money, right? Like, oh, I have this card, it's $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. It's like I like the times where you get a card and you're ecstatic about it. Like I was ecstatic about certain cards of mine for like a week or 2 weeks. Like I know that sounds stupid,
No, no,
but
no.
it's
I
like,
totally get it. Cause like I'll get a
right.
card in the mail because I don't buy cards too often. I'll get a card in the mail and I'll just sit there and stare at it because like I have it delivered
Yeah.
to my work and it's like I'll literally stare at like when I got my 8.5 Black War Greymon from Murph. I kid you not, that was my favorite card over my Charizard for like a straight month. I was like, dude, this card is so sick. And like not
Yeah.
many people would understand that, and that's totally fine. But like it meant so much more to me because it's like, wow, this card is so cool. But I totally get it. And you talked about trust, and we talked about your past, and we talked about the creatures deck, and what I want to know is, not many people in here know, or they might know that you do PSA grading as a middleman. You are a middleman, for very very high end cards. I think cards just in general. So kind of talk to us about how you got started in terms of grading cards for people and offering that level of service, and I kind of relate to you in the sense of like being able to make people happy in regards to getting their cards, and it could be any grade. It's just like the fact that they have their card, it's been authenticated, it got the grade that they wanted or got close to the grade that they wanted, and they're very happy about it. um you know you I can relate to you in the level of like being able to give back in terms of that level of service. So kind of talk to us about how you got started in terms of grading, and how it got you to where you are now, because being able to grade massive cards at that kind of caliber for people who are well known in the hobby, who could just send those cards themselves, um, like it takes a huge level of trust to be able to establish and create. Talk to us about that. Talk to us how you started in terms of grading, and what that overall process and journey has been for you.
Okay. Well, I started grading cards with PSA when I had gotten back in during COVID. I actually sent my cards to Rusty. I sent my gold stars to him and I said, hey, I need these graded. I sent them to him and they just sat and waited and waited and waited. And
That's
this
kind of
is when,
crazy because like you're on the West Coast and
yeah,
Rusty is in North Carolina, so it would go back and forth. Yeah.
yep, it's crazy. And I ended up shipping them to him. And then I think PSA closed. No, they didn't. Did they close? Yeah, they closed. They had closed down 3 months and then they opened back up and then my order was finished. Um, and then I ran into this really very successful client of mine at the time, and he had first edition Charizard 9.5. He had a Crystal Charizard 9.5. He had a uh, Blastoise first edition 9.5. He had a Venusaur 9.5. Bunch of high end cards, and at the time during COVID, the 9.5 Charizard I want to say was 65,000. Don't quote me, I might be wrong. It was really dependent upon the subgrades. I want to say like 65,000, I think is what it was capping at, because a 9 was I think 50K, or was it 100,000 for first ed 9? I don't remember. The card prices were, I didn't pay attention to first
Yeah,
edition
that whole week after Logan Paul, prices just spiked heavily. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When Logan kind of got in and then created this hype with celebrities, other celebrities started to pour in and go, "Hey,
Yeah.
I could flip these cards." And it
Yeah,
was
it created
funny.
a new level of validity
Yeah,
amongst
I'll tell you a
people.
story
Yeah.
about I watched an influencer really make himself look very funny because he thought he was getting a deal. But anyways, so I had this client, right, and he wanted to essentially grade a 10 first edition Charizard. I was like, okay, we can try. And at that time, that Charizard was 245. I think 200. It was right when I think Logic was the one who bought his 10
Yes.
for like 200 and something thousand. So we were like, okay. So we said, I called PSA and I was like, hey, I have somebody who has like a bunch of cards. Can I set up a meeting to come in and do a walkthrough service? And they're like, yeah, you got to talk to said representative. So I spoke to a certain representative at the time who was like the overseer of the department that I was trying to get these cards graded with,
Mm.
and he told me, sure, come on down. I met the gentleman, very nice person. We became friends in a business relationship wise, to where after I graded this stuff, I was like, look, like if these get tens, we have money here to pay the upcharge fee, because the upcharge fee was I think going to be like $5,000-$10,000. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, $10,000 for this upcharge, because it was like a 240,000. I think it was like $5,000. And if the Crystal Charizard got a 10, I think that was like 20,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And the first edition Blastoise was like 40 or 50,000, and Venusaur was like 20,000. So we had all these like crazy cards, and what was funny is David was with me when we did this. Um, David met me there, and that's kind of like David and I had gotten close before this. Like we were good friends outside of like grading. Just met through the hobby, and then this kind of like started
Started.
something. And
Yeah.
um, after I had this one connection, I said, hey, like, can I bring stuff into PSA? So I'm one of the very few people. Like, there's a lot of other things with PSA you can like. So like for PSA, in order to have like when you have an account, you only can ship stuff to them. You have no option to drop off in hand person
Mm-hmm.
unless you're doing a walkthrough.
Yeah.
And unless you're doing a walkthrough, you have to call ahead and go, hey, I want to set up an appointment. They have to approve it. There's a whole paper trail
There's a lot of hoops to jump through.
yeah, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. And I was fortunate enough to essentially have a relationship with PSA to where I could say, hey, I have an order I would like to walk through. Is this doable? Sure. And at the time, PSA only had Super Express and Express open, I think, or they might have only had walkthrough open. They only had like two services open. So I know David was doing a lot of recasing for cards,
Mm-hmm.
and David walked in a lot of, put it this way, I think at one point I was able to see 8 first edition Lugia PSA 10s. I think 8 or 9 at the time. And that was $100,000 card. At the time of COVID, I had seen like 8 or 9 for recasings, and the card I showed you off screen, that card came through.
Golly.
And like crazy cards were coming through. So he was doing the recasing, I was doing the grading for people, and we had this option where it was like, look, guys, sending your cards into PSA, it takes a lot of time when you ship it. They got to go through the shipping department, they got to go through this department, they got to go through that department, they got to get logged. It takes some times. There's always a risk with doing that. Stuff can get lost, stuff can get missing, stuff happens.
There's so many different variables. Yeah.
So many variables, and we were like, look, we are fortunate enough to offer you a service where you ship us your cards, we log them on our account, and I can literally take them and hand deliver them to a representative at PSA. And they go through the door with paperwork in a box, just like this. I'll even show you guys. Just like this. I don't have my PSA plastic case. They come in a box like this.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
And you hand it over. My plastic cases we send in all the time, but and we drop it off. And usually, if PSAs there's no issues with backlog, I usually get cards logged in that day, where I can have your stuff in the system, day of delivery, getting through research and ID day 1.
So you were pretty much providing like a peace of mind sort of convenience level to a lot of your clients. I mean, I would have went to you, because like there are times where I send stuff off to clients and it's like I have to wait a week until I get an email, or 2 weeks before I get an email from PSA stating that we received your clients' cards. So like what I think you do is actually massive.
Yeah, it was taking the stress off of new submitters within the hobby, because Pokemon was blowing up and everybody was like, oh God, I need to grade everything. And that's what people were doing. They were just grading every single card they could think of. And I told people, I was like, look, I don't want to grade your stuff if it's like $20, because I don't want you to give me $150 literally for the basic service, on top of the service fee on top of it, which wasn't a lot, mind you. It was like $20-$30 at the end of it. Like, and that covered gas and shipping usually. So I wasn't really taking anything off the top. And I don't want you to, but I was telling people, like, look, don't send me your basic Charizard that's going to get a 1. I would suggest to you as a client, if you have a card, like for example, an Umbreon VMAX Alt Art, right, just for reference purposes, we can submit that card on the $100 level. Let's look at what it is in a 10. Okay, if you decide to sell it, which a majority of the time the clients I had wanted to sell.
Correct.
Exactly. I was like, look, let's maximize your ROI, and let's do it this way. Let's wait until they open up a service level, or if you really want to take the chance, if it doesn't hit a 10, I don't want you to be mad at me, because that's the other thing, right? So I would submit cards for people, and there's this really big joke within the PSA hobby, or if you have a rep at PSA, it's like, oh, you can get PSA 10s, right? And I think it's so funny. They're like, oh yeah, you can get me a 10, right? I'm always asked this question, Josh, you can get me a 10, right? You can get me a 10. And I look at them and I'm like, if I can get you a 10, I would have 10s in every card I have, right? I was like, I can't guarantee you a 10. I said, what I can do is find out what was the issue potentially, if they're willing to tell me, like, hey, why did this get a 9? Let's look at it. And the rep like, oh, I just picked this order up. They said it got a 9 because of this and this. Like when I had walked in the Charizard 9.5, I asked them, why won't this cross? They walked to the back. Because I had done it right there. We waited like 3 hours for this service.
Right.
We waited in the lobby. They walked back, came back, and they literally told me this, and this. I was like, okay.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah. Now you can do that with BGS. Usually they give you like a slip if you do a walkthrough and they'll circle stuff.
Right.
I don't know that many people at PSA that are told, like, hey, now this, of course, because of the card's value, I wanted to know, and I asked. I was like, look, guys, I know like this isn't doable usually, but look, because this card is so expensive right now, my client would like to know why.
Why?
So then they can go and potentially regrade with someone else if they wanted to. And they did it. They did it a one-time thing, and ever since then, I've always wanted to know. Usually, I can kind of tell when it doesn't get a 10. You know, I'm pretty. I feel like I'm pretty good at determining if it's going to get a 10 or not because I'm very strict. I'm like, look, I'm very realistic about it. But yeah, so going back to like our clients, right? So I offered a service to where I can drop your stuff off free of like literally hassle free, um, and people just kind of sent me their stuff, and we've had crazy grades. I graded the Espeon PSA 10. I have an Umbreon at PSA, a gold star. I think it's going to get a 10. I'm very confident it will. That card is
That's
probably going
cool.
to get a 10. I would have graded both. I have, dude, there's so many crazy announcements coming with what's coming out of PSA right now. I can't even tell you guys.
Yeah,
But I'm telling
guys,
you,
one of the cards you just showed me, it's
it,
cool. It's
yeah,
cool.
I have something. I have something. There's so many cards that are coming out of PSA that I'm grading. I'm very fortunate enough to have a great business partner that has a long list of people that have asked, and we've worked with each other on it. Um, you know, David has been a great business partner to me, great friend to me, and it's been a very very rewarding relationship. And it was really just because I liked cards. It was a hobby that I did for fun, and then COVID blew it up. And since then, I think I have 20. I've had 27 orders at PSA in the last month. I want to say 27 orders, and there's I think another 5 or 6 just got logged today or
Mm.
yesterday. Excuse me. Um, so I have a lot of cards coming in and out, but people are always very skeptical, right? They're like, "Oh, how's the process work? You know, how are the turnaround times?" And like I say, usually I'm shorter because I'm handing it to them. There's at least some time shaved off.
Yeah,
I
you have a much more expedited service.
Yeah, I have gotten cards back. Um, I've gotten cards back in a week at a lower level. Um, But then PSA opened up their $30 tier and it got slammed. And I wasn't able to get faster turnarounds anymore because they were like, look, Josh, we're taking, we're trying to make sure we get all the backlog out. PSA's stressed to me, like tell your clients, like, look, if there's a longer delay, it's because we're trying to get rid of the 2-year backlog they've had. They're trying to knock it out. I mean, people have seen the PSA updated, timestamps on there of
Yeah,
what they've
do
gotten.
you think this email from today is gonna help any?
Oh,
It says
wow. I didn't
18
even
card
see that.
July national special. Yeah, for Collectors Club members only.
Oh, great. I'm a Collectors Club member. So,
Yeah, same. Yeah.
oh man, dude, I've got 400 cards sitting behind me. And what was funny is I was told they were supposed to drop that. I just didn't know when. Um, so it doesn't surprise me. They're probably going to get a massive influx of cards. But then again, Pokemon's in this weird state. I know you want to
It
talk about
is.
that later, where the market's going and grading. Um,
Yeah, we
but
can
yeah,
talk
so
about
like,
that now. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
But
the
before
service.
we rush to it, I want to like talk about how but yeah, I think you're going to touch on it anyways, like how you were able to like is it because of that sort of expedited service and your partnership with David you guys were like that kind of fast tracked you to be able to work with massive cards cuz like from the very beginning you were already grading massive cards to begin with. Like we're not talking about, $20, $5 cards. We're talking about pretty expensive cards to begin with. Like cards with low populations, very difficult to grade. Cards that are notoriously known to have print lines within them. Just very difficult cards to grade in general. So like do you think that kind of got you to where you're currently at now? Because like I know for me, I was sort of just grading smaller cards to begin with, just smaller vintage cards, like cards that belonged to me at that time, and just going to the card shop, just buying stuff, and then I was part of the smaller Discord, and people just kind of trusted me to grade cards, and that kind of just grew to what it was. But I don't think my service or the level of experience with the cards that I've dealt with, they don't touch what you've dealt with. Like you've graded massive cards, which is kind of
I've
crazy.
been lucky.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to grade cards that were pretty expensive. I think honestly it was word of mouth, right? Because once they found out David and I are partners, they would reach out to David and be like, "Oh, David, I want to sub this," and David would be like, "Okay, cool." He'd let me know, and then I would be like, "Oh, I got an order too," and we kind of just compile our orders and take them all to PSA. But majority of everything we've done, we don't crazily advertise like, for example, I'm not going to say like crazy, but Canto Shark, right? Jared, crazy, great account, great dude in the community. He does everything very
Shut up,
professional.
Jared.
Where he makes entire, thing going, here's this, here's that. He's dropping a website soon. He's been teasing it. He's going to have an area where you have a submission form for it. So like his
Yeah.
level of professionalism, at least the layout of it, is very different from ours, right? It's like, so
Whereas
people
like
know
you just like you create a massive card
word
and
of
then it
mouth.
just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's word of mouth, and like we don't crazily tell people like, oh yeah, we're actively grading, we're actively grading. We just like let our grades and like what we do speak for themselves. And I think David will agree with me on this. Like the recasings are like good, right? But it's not like crazy, and he knows that. Um, Whereas like you grade a crazy massive card, and then people are asking you, hey, how did you get a 10? Did they give it to you? Like, what did you say? I'm like, dude, I
Uh
submitted it just like you did. I didn't ask for anything. I just said, hey, I said, this is an expensive card to grade. Please be careful with it. I said, I would love a 10 if you guys can give me a 10, but like we'll see what we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what the
right.
grader thinks. There's no way of telling PSA like, hey, give me a PSA 10, right? Like I know Wolfie collects biggest whale.
Dude,
Dude
he
grades tens
yeah.
of every card. I am so jealous. He sent a
I
bunch of gold surfing. I told him, I said, I'm literally gonna text my people and tell them to not pull your order. Like I'm joking with him, saying like,
yeah,
yeah,
we have a running joke where myself and a couple other people we just bag on him just cuz he just and it's not just PSA, it's with fucking Beckett too. Like the dude
yeah,
lands solid grades
it's a really
every
good grader.
time. Yeah. It's
Yeah, and I messaged
crazy.
him. I'm like, I always joke with him, and I'm like, Wolfie, I'm gonna find your connected PSA and make them mine because I want your grades, right? Because, dude, I think he's graded Milotic, he's graded Celebi, he's graded Umbreon, he's graded Espeon, he's graded, dude, he hits every big
Dude,
card.
yeah.
It's
So
absurd.
Murph has a Beckett 9.5 Black War Greymon. It's pop one. Um,
Yeah,
and before Wolfie graded this current one that he currently has, there was no nines, and so with that in mind, there was only a pop 5 of 8.5s that I have. I know David has an 8.5 as well. Wolfie then grade well, I the one that Wolfie had, which was an 8.5, now belongs to David. Wolfie now has a Beckett 9 in that, and I'm like, bro, how? And so like
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's just crazy. And like the dude, I think the
it,
dude's like in New Jersey, New York, something along the lines of the East
I don't know
Coast.
where Wolfie lives. I see his packages come to David's all the time. I never,
Yeah.
and I get packages for him because what's funny enough, I actually middleman for clients for their subs. Like they send me stuff.
Mm.
Like for example, um, I have a client's cards behind me. I have 3 of his cards that he sent to me. He's in the UK, really great guy. He had me not grade his stuff, but he sent them to me and he was like, hey, Josh, I'm going to have stuff middleman to you. And I've had he sent me some crazy cards and he's bought a lot from Wolfie. I think
Yeah.
he bought Latios EX PSA 10s from EX Dragon, which is this card right here. This card, I mean, my camera froze on my end from my picture. That's why I look all funny. But
No, you're good.
um, so he's graded massive cards. But going back to like my relationship with PSA and like how we've built our service, it's really like I said, word of mouth.
Right.
Um, and then the more bigger cards we grade, the more it seems trust in the clients kind of comes back, where people
Yeah.
are like, okay,
Of course.
I'm gonna give you, or wow, you got my cards graded in like 5 days, 5 business days. Like not a lot of people can say that, right? Where like that
I
level
can't.
of service, you're paying like $250 to $600 a card. For an express walkthrough, you're paying that kind of money to get the cards back fast. And what I was told is, as of right now, like PSA is on delays for cards. I think on their website they say like walkthroughs are taking 3 days. Like that's
I
crazy.
think every service is getting hit with that right now. Like CGC is
Yeah,
about to get hit with it. Beckett currently is with experiencing that. Like it's every service.
yeah, and like now that they're announcing this $18 a card, it's gonna make me wonder like what are my turnaround times? Like right now we're experimenting with a $30 card level to see how long it takes.
Yeah.
I think they said in September they would be done. I'm hoping, knocking on wood, I get it back in August, right before Collecticon. But I can't promise anything, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we'll kind of see what happens with that. But yeah, man, David and I, we've been fortunate enough to grade a lot of cards. And like I say, if anybody's interested, right, just reach out to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't like if you guys have questions, like I'll happily grade your stuff. I'll tell you like honestly, like, oh, this will get a 7, this will get an 8, this will get a 9, this will get a 10. Like And I've been pretty good with my pre-grades. There have been some cards I kind of like was iffy about. Well, why'd this get a 7? And then I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. Um, but I've been pretty spot on. And
Mm.
David always makes the joke like, "Oh, Josh, you should be a grader. Like you seem to know it all." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, David, whatever." I'm very harsh on my cards because it's like, look,
Yeah.
I don't want to say you're gonna 10 and then your card comes back an
Yeah,
8.
you're a very conservative person when it comes down to grades. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like,
I get it.
it's a cool 10. It's a weak 10. It's a strong 9, vice versa.
Hmm.
So, that's kind of like where we've been. Now, you asked me like what I think of grading in 2022.
Yeah.
Um,
And but before we get on that, I was gonna ask something. Yeah, let's just go ahead and touch on that, and if I remember it, I'll ask. Yeah.
okay. So, where I think grading is going to be going, personally, okay, I use PSA because PSA has always been the name of trading card hobby,
Yeah.
right? You think of baseball, like sports, I know is very different where it's like they send it to Beckett for like 9 5s and 10s and like crazy stuff like that. But like the
Yeah.
original sports cards, like the Fleers and the Honus Wagners, like that
PSA.
era of cards, they're all going to PSA.
That's where
And
the
quite
that's where
frankly,
most of the liquidity is available. Like you're gonna have much more buyers who are wanting to buy
yeah,
PSAs over anything else.
exactly. You have a larger pool of buyers that are willing to spend more money for a PSA 10 than a Beckett 9, or a PSA 9 versus a Beckett 9.
Hmm.
Now, talk about subgrades, it's a whole different category, right? But usually, relatively speaking, PSA 9s tend to go higher prices than Beckett's. Now, I know that's changing because of the whole rating standards changing and cards that are weak and cards that are getting through. I can't, that's something I'm not a grader, right? I can't tell you,
Yeah,
like,
it's tough
look,
to speak on that, right?
it's hard to say on that. Like, I do think PSA has cracked down on their standards where they're like, look, they're looking at more expensive cards harshly. Um, and I think they're giving them more relatively tougher grades because they don't want to hand out 10s. Um, but where like grading's going, I choose PSA because again, my collection's PSA. Don't get me wrong, I love Beckett slabs. If I can get Beckett 10s of all this, I would have them. I want Beckett black labels, right? But they're so hard to get. It's almost not worth me spending $250 a card for this premium express service where I'm going to send a card in. 250 bucks a pop is going to kill me. Like I'm going to spend so much. Granted, I love the card, but I don't think it's 10 worthy, right, for BGS,
Right.
because they're so harsh. So, but where I think like grading is going, there's a lot of companies out there, right? There's PSA, BGS, CGC, AGS, that new Lions company. There's the DSG or DGS grading. There's so many of these companies popping up because COVID happened and PSA shut down, and we were looking at 12 to 18 months of turnaround times, and I've heard people say 26 months. 2 years and 2 months. Like that's insane.
That's a long time. Yeah, I'm currently waiting for some of my clients to sub from the second half of October. So I received the first half, and I received January. I have not, part of January, but I have not received the second half of October, and
Yeah.
and this is
Odd.
like 2020, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. And like I'll also get people who message me like, "Hey Shiv, what's the progress on it? Like, is there any update?" Well, the update should be, I don't know. Like, I won't know until
Yeah.
they pull money out of my account.
Yeah. And it's like one of those things where it's like cards like my cards when I did a huge submission for a client through Ludkins before I had my relationship with PSA.
Hmm.
I waited, I think, 17 months, and
Yeah.
when he had originally submitted it, it was a huge 50, 60, $70,000 submission, and that sub dropped drastically because cards flew out
Just
into the
sat.
market.
Yeah.
The saturation of cards out there right now that are graded are it's just a whole different time because PSA said they had 12 million backlog, I think, and I'm very confident that was a lot of Pokemon besides sports. I think Pokemon had a huge chunk of that because of the boom they had. I mean, if anybody follows Cool Trainer Ryan, literally watch his stories one time and look at his pool table. He has a sea of slabs. I mean, thousands of slabs, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He has thousands and thousands of WotC cards literally on his pool table coming back from PSA. And I asked him, like, bro, how many did you grade? He's like, I graded like 5, 6,000. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's insane. So, like, where grading is going, I think the name of the game right now is CGC. I think a lot of people are really taking on CGC
Hmm.
because CGC seems to be getting into every content creator's face, going, "Hey, check us out. We will give you." They're doing a really good job. I think they're
Their
reaching out to the
yeah, their
community.
pricing is stupid good right now. Their pricing is crazy right now, and like I know some of the whatnot streamers. I know some of the like the current deals that they're getting at per card, and it's
Mhm.
like that's actually a really good price. And the turnaround time, I was looking at Sports Card Investor about a couple of months ago. CGC for their cheapest grading service at that time was outpacing everything, and I think in terms of their level of transparency for authenticating certain things, it's pretty solid. Even like with big cards, like even with like the most recent Disco Charizard, I think it's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
do you
What's
think PSA is going to try and step up, really hard against that?
um so I'm gonna kind of like piggyback off of what you said.
Yeah, sure,
So
go ahead.
EGC, I think, has done a really good job reaching out to content creators and saying, "Hey, why don't we offer you something for grading with us in return, like a discount on your grading fees?" I think that's a really good idea on their part. They're getting into the community and they're figuring out what people want. I think that's kind of a disconnect with older companies like PSA and BGS because they've been in the game so long. They own the market, right? PSA
Mm-hmm.
owns what no matter what anybody says right now. PSA owns the market on slabs. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care what you say. PSA owns it. And if you don't believe me, look at the sales history. We're not talking BGS 10s. We're not talking like niche market cards, niche grades like that. We're talking, historically speaking, PSA has owned the market of cards. And there's no, I don't see a rebuttal because CGC can't hold up yet. I don't see a rebuttal from BGS basic grades. Anything below a 10, I don't see any rebuttal besides 9.5s. Okay. But BGS 9s and below always tend to sell lower than PSA 10s
PSA,
or
yeah,
PSA.
always have.
No matter, it's normal. So for a new company like CGC who has younger management, who have people that are really in this, that are truly in this space, that understand it, they know where to go. They're going to whatnot streamers, they're going to content creators, they're going to YouTube, big YouTubers, big celebrities, going, "Hey, we're going to give you a kickback, or we're going to give you a discount. We'll give you a referral code, and if anybody uses this referral code, we'll give you money, and they'll get a discount on their submission." Like, that's a great idea, and they're offering faster turnaround times. And on top of that, they're authenticating cards with their um, system scan machines, I believe. So
They also
they're
have that
just,
whole branch doing the authentication for eBay.
yes, which, dude, like, that's big in the collectible space. CGC's doing it right, and I think over periods of time, maybe probably the next 5 years, I would say 5 to 10 years, we'll really see what happens with the grading market. I can't say, like, I feel like 5 years is a good number for to see like true growth, to see where the market of slabs goes, at least like grading preference wise, not price, but grading preference. Like, are we going to see a lot of these people who are now buying CGC slabs in their collection going to continue with CGC slabs? Because, like, for me personally, I don't want a CGC slab in my PSA case. Like, I personally don't care for it
Mm-hmm.
because I have PSA. Whereas now we have the same thing with a CGC collector. Is a CGC collector going to want a PSA 10, or are they going to want a CGC 10? Because at the time, CGC 10s were like nearly impossible to get. And
Correct.
if you got one, it was like the whole idea of, oh, it's a BGS 10, right? That whole theory of a black label. And I think you're gonna see this really big shift in what people are, like, what grading companies have as like market share, where who's grading more cards. Because if CGC keeps going, I think PSA is going to have some work to do. I think that they're going to
Yeah.
actually have to step up and really, like, grab the reins and figure out, okay, what are we doing wrong? And I know Nat, and like seeing what Nat's doing, like, they bought Wada, right? They
Mm-hmm.
bought Wada Games. I think he's more focused on like the futures of the company's health. I think he'll figure it out. But as of right now,
Yeah.
I think CGC's doing well. I do find some things interesting on why CGC does certain things, like grading that Techno Charizard, right? That card, funny story. I knew a client with an uncut sheet of that,
Yeah.
and
Slowpoke has
had that.
one, and
Yeah, Jeremy
Rusty
has
has one.
one. Yeah, Rusty has one, Jeremy has one, and there's one more client that has one. I only know of three. I don't know if there's more.
I only know just those
Rust,
two.
yeah, Rusty was talking about cutting it up one day. This was a long time ago, and I think Jeremy bought his
For Rusty.
from Rusty, and it was like the going thing of like, is somebody going to cut this up? And that Charizard came from a cut up sheet. And what I was reading, there was a Discord I was in. Somebody's talking about they have the Ninetales. They're going to start selling all of the other Techno ones. And I'm just like, okay. My thought was like, why would CGC grade this, right? Like, I felt like those cards, PSA wouldn't grade that.
They would not. No.
No. And it was like a huge contemplation for a long time when Rusty was trying to authenticate it. It was legit because he had said in a video a long time ago, he asked a distributor from the factory asking her if it was real, and she said no. But then he met somebody else who knew exactly, like, look, this the way this is laid out, there's no way this is not authentic. It's legit. So now that it's legit, now that it's being graded, I think the Charizard sold for $15,000.
Yeah.
It was a PSA 5, right?
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
A PSA 5 is $5,000. Right? PSA 5 is like $4,000 to $5,000. What? And that's like that copy that sold was non-first edition.
Correct.
Right? So what's going to happen if there's a 10 that's graded? I'm very curious, right? But anyways, my point, right? I didn't think CGC should have graded it, but just because I knew the person cut it up, I was kind of like, man, okay, like they're getting the square corners, they're cutting it up. Personally, I wouldn't have graded that card. I personally wouldn't have cut the sheet up though, but hey, power to you. CGC used it as a great marketing ploy. It worked. So, but like going back to like grading, right? I love PSA. I love BGS. I like CGC. I think they're going to do well.
Yeah.
But I think like you're going to see this huge shift in who people are going to be grading with. And I think a lot of people are sending all of their stuff to CGC because they're like over PSA, over the experience they've dealt with, the lack of customer service, all of these long list of complaints that I've heard from word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Mouth of individuals saying like, look, PSA did this to me, that to me, this to me. I would be frustrated too, and I would want. And CGC I've heard offers excellent customer service.
They do, but I feel like if you were to put like the same sort of stress that PSA did have at the peak of sports and Pokemon and all things cards, I think that CGC would have the same issues. They would 100% have the same issues. And they came, like, I think it was genius for CGC to come up in a time where PSA was already having those sort of issues. Like, they came up at the right time. I just think that I'm one of those types of people that always says like patience is a good virtue, and I think it's like super important. Like you said, I think it's important to wait 5 years from now to kind of see where things are. And for me as a collector, I have PSA cards, I have Beckett cards. I'm just one of those people that I want to be able to see, a decent amount of time within with sales history. I want to see a decent amount of I want to see a decent amount of stuff within the sales history of CGC. Like, I want to be able to see a long record of different data points for certain cards that have sold for CGC 5 years from now, and then maybe buy a CGC card. For me, I think I'm not too much of a huge risk taker to buy a CGC card. Plus, I just don't really like the label for CGC. I'd much rather think that, like, I would love to have a cooler label for CGC Perfect 10 or a pristine 10 or whatever they call it. Like, I don't know.
I agree. So yeah, it's an interesting place right now with grading companies and who's doing what and what promos are going to offer. Like PSA's promo, $18 a card. I'm probably going to submit a few cards for $18. I'm definitely going to be submitting a few cards because it's like, why not? They're cards I want for my collection. I mean, I'm not flipping them. So
yeah,
just by paying $30 a card, I'm going to spend $150 on 5 cards. It's just outrageous. So
Pokemon Radar says hi. Lots of people are saying hi.
John. And John's going to be my best friend next week. John, you're going to be my best friend next week, bud. I'll tell you about it. But anyways, so yeah, I think CGC's doing it well right now. I think they're crushing it. I think they're really taking headway. I think they're causing a lot of collectors to shift their collection goals to, instead of PSA, CGC. And it's even crazier is you can buy cards for cheaper and and grade them with other companies is what people are doing. And I know they don't like talking about it, but you know, buy a CGC9 for half the price of a PSA9, crack it, grade
Crack it,
it,
send it
PSA,
off. Yeah, yeah.
maybe get a 10. If you get a 10, you score. Um,
Yeah, I think like what's important to also like just to kind of add to all of this is like I feel like at some point, grading the like whatever company you grade with, like I think eventually at some point like these grading companies, it's great for the end consumer because like you have different options. And I feel like at some point a lot of these standards are going to be relatively similar to the point where you just kind of have to say like and I think it's still true to this day where you have to buy the card and not the grade or whatever company that has graded it. Like I think eventually it'll just come down to whether or not is this card authentic, yes or no. Is this card the grade that it deserves, yes or no. And it just comes down to what the actual card is. And I think that's like the biggest thing to kind of add onto what you've been saying. Um, is there? We kind of are winding down. I think this is typically the runtime for the podcast is about an hour. We're a little over that.
yeah, we're a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, no, dude. I think what people should really pay attention. Honestly, like the last note I'll leave, I guess, is you asked me where I think the card market's gonna, like, where the state of the hobby's gonna go. I know you asked me off camera.
Yeah.
Answer your question. I think Pokemon is it. I don't think Pokemon's going anywhere.
Mm.
I think a lot of the people who were there's a lot of like uneasiness right now within this hobby where people are worried because of the card market going down so hard.
Do you think that's just because there was a lot more people coming in? I think what's happening now is only natural. We saw such a huge rubber band effect where prices just shot up. Like things should not move that fast, that far up. Like that level of volatility, you're gonna have to expect certain things to go down just as fast.
I think um, being an econ major, right? I think if you really want to like understand the reason I think Pokemon had such a boom because we had such an influx of money. People like COVID happened. Okay, people were no longer going to work. They were still getting paid by the government and potentially by their job. So they had all this cash. So you remove the fact of having to commute to work, not going on vacation, not going to events, not going to games, not going to this, not going to that, and they're bored. So that's
Mm.
why you saw an influx of gym equipment being bought. You saw an influx of DoorDash and food being delivered. You saw these delivery apps pop up all over the place to go grocery shopping for you. You saw stores being bought out. You saw toilet paper influxes, water influxes.
Wood going
People,
up, steel going
yeah,
up. Yeah.
everything. The cost of living was like low, but like price, like you had so much going up in price because you had so much money because the government was giving you money, and these people were like, okay, look, I have this money. I'm bored at home, and they saw a video, and they were like, holy cow! Like these videos are talking about how I can make money if I lost my job. I'm still getting paid by the government. I can sell Pokemon cards, or I can buy Pokemon cards. So you had these people getting, I think, $2,100 every 2 weeks, $4,200 a month, close to $50,000 a year in free cash. More money than they were making on their job. That money, I truly think a lot of collectors who didn't make that were now spending that. And then you watch these prices go like this. People bought crypto. You had a lot of people from crypto, a lot of young kids that were doing alternative asset investments. Cardboard is an alternative asset. I hate to break it to people, but
It
it
is.
really is treated that way. Um, and you had these crypto guys who had millions of dollars all of a sudden coming into this hobby going, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, Logic bought a box. I'm Logic's fan. I'm going to buy something like him. Let me check this out. Oh, this Charizard was $40,000 6 months ago. I'm going to buy it right now at 150K. Buy it, and then, oh, wow, it's 300,000 now. I'm going to sell it to some other whale. So you had all these high end, all these people with this large amounts of wealth and liquid to come into this hobby and go, okay, these cards that were so cheap are now they're so easy, they're affordable for me to buy, and it's just going to decrease the supply, increase the demand, and push prices. And we saw that, and now because COVID is essentially disappearing and people are going back to work and inflation's at an all-time high of like 8.5%, gas prices are outrageous. people are selling stuff to cover expenses,
Mm-hmm.
to cover their life. They're leaving the hobby. They're whatever they bought at, they're now selling. They're taking a loss and they're leaving the space. That's why you see a lot of people undercutting. And I think it's going to get worse on some cards because so many people submitted Charizard and so many people are submitting like alt arts and new cards on these lower tier levels, like $20 a card instead of paying
Mm-hmm.
150. These cards are now going to go from $600 to like 250. I'm telling people that's gonna happen,
Yep.
and you have a lot of people freaking out, and it's like you have to like see the bigger picture, right? Right now, it's Pokemon's in a really weird place, like in this really interesting space where there's a lot of time to buy. I
Mm-hmm.
know a buyer that bought like half of Golden's or half of PWCC's and Heritage's auction block, bought almost all the trophies.
I mean, like Ken Lee is
Like,
still spending buttloads of money on Pokemon. Yeah.
yeah, like I know a buyer that bought the Illustrator 9, that bought the Triple Pikas, that bought like 2 or 3 University Magikarps, that
I
bought like two or
yeah.
three trophies.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like this person came in with at the perfect time and trophies. And to me, like if you're buying for like an alternative asset, you buy a trophy card. You buy a high end card like that that's like pop 15, pop 20. So my point, right? Going back, my point is, if you're in this hobby for the love of it, money is irrelevant. It's not going to matter what. I don't care if my cards go to 1,000. I don't care
Yeah,
if they go
that's
down to
just
the
always the cherry on
original.
top. Yeah.
I don't care because it's like I like the cards regardless. And people ask me, what should I buy and invest in? Invest
I
in
don't
what
know.
you
Buy what you like. Yeah.
like. I buy cards I like the artwork on, and then it works.
Yeah.
There's no there's no secret formula to this hobby. There's not. A
No,
lot of
there
people
isn't.
just got lucky. A lot of people like,
I got lucky.
dude, SM Pratt, literally the biggest person in the hobby, told people like I was buying Pokemon. If I'm correct, David and John know this if they're still in your live in the chat. They're like he was buying Pokemon when it was not popular. He was buying Trophy King, Illustrator. He was buying these big cards when the hobby wasn't explosive. And I think he said he got lucky.
Yeah.
It was Gary has said the same thing. He got
That's
lucky on buying this stuff. He bought
that's
other
with
TCG.
every if you look at it in sort of really anything, like any investment, it's just being at the right place at the right time. It has to do with luck. It's like even with like day trading, it's like there's a lot of luck that's involved with it. I mean, like yeah, sure you can do technical analysis and this and that, and it'll make you it'll allow you to have a much more better informed decision. But like there is a lot of luck that plays into it. I mean, like for me, I bought the Shrek card for $7 off of eBay, and I do not want to sell it. Like there was a guy from Pause Jokers who was wanting to buy my Shrek card for like $200, and I'm like no. And now I have people on Facebook asking about it, and it's like I don't want to sell this one. You can buy my other one, but I don't want to sell this one. And so like it just comes down to like, what was that?
It's the same thing with Harry Potter.
I remember, dude. I bought. So I bought two booster. I bought two booster boxes or one booster box of Quidditch Cup for $35 off of eBay. I sold that to Jarvis Johnson, for $500, and that was only after holding the box for maybe a year. Yeah, crazy. Like that exploded. That actually exploded.
Yeah. So, but yeah, dude, Pokemon. I'm always gonna be in Pokemon. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still gonna be buying the cards I love. I will stress to everybody here who watches this podcast, whoever sees this podcast, buy what you collect, what you love.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the monetary value. Don't worry about flexing. Don't worry about showing it off all the time. I never show my cards off normally. Yes, I talk about gold stars. Yes, I'm biased on them because I love them. But buy what you love, collect what you like, and if you want to make this a business, that's fine, okay? But have fun doing it, because if you don't have fun, you're not going to enjoy it. And this hobby is so much fun. I have met so many freaking incredible people in this hobby that have literally changed my life financially and relationship-wise. And I'm eternally grateful for it. I met you through this hobby. I met you at Collecticon.
Yeah.
Before you were, the followers you're at now, before you were big, like crazy, all
I'm
this
not
stuff,
big.
right? Right. But, enjoy what you love, and when it comes down to it, when you want, if anybody wants to grade stuff, DM me, reach out to me, reach out to Brown Eyes. Reach. We're both business partners. We talk. Just ask questions if you don't understand what's going on. If you're worried about buying something, ask questions. Do I
Yeah.
buy this? Do I not? Does this look legit? Does this look fake? Like, ask questions, right? Um, but yeah, if there's any other questions you have, Shivam, go ahead and ask.
I
I'm
have one more.
okay.
You said you're finishing up school. Is this something you want to do full time? Is this something that you want to do for the rest of your life and use what you've learned throughout school and apply this to this?
Um,
Well, I'm sure you already are, but I'm saying, is this something you would
oh,
love to do?
uh, I can't tell you yet.
Hmm.
Um, I am. I would love, honestly, I would love to work in the space of collectibles.
I
Like
mean,
it's
just the one card you showed me, like okay, like just to give you some context, because I'm sure people in the chat already know this because I already said it before, but like
yeah.
the area that I live in, Virginia, it used to be known as the furniture and textile capital of the world, and
Okay.
around the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of them went overseas. Um, and so it left a huge void. And it's like a lot of these manufacturing facilities here, a lot of people chose not to go to college. Instead, they dropped out of high school and went straight to work. And so after that left a huge void, the city in today's world like right now, the median salary for someone living in the city, which is like 5 minutes away from where I live, is $23,000 a year. And then the median salary in the county that I live in is $43,000 a year. And so like just the card that you showed me, like you're talking about like if that person sold the card that you just showed me, that would set them for and they're living at the rate that
Yeah.
they're it's stupid amounts of money. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. So like
And it's a card you never see.
nah, it's a card, yeah. Nah.
So, um, so do I want to do something in the space? Yes, I have plans. Um, I would love to work with certain companies in this space and be project management or working with clients like this and bringing on people to the space and introducing them to this world because I enjoy it. Like, I don't actively tell people what I do because it's like, look, people laugh. They like think it's funny, like, oh yeah, you do cards, right? And then they see the dollar signs, and then their
Yeah, they see the
tune changes,
numbers
right?
and then they
Whenever
yeah.
money involved, money changes people, and like I try to keep that like very minimal to where I talk about like, oh yeah, I have a card collection, look, and then I then like, oh, what's this worth? And then I tell them, and then they freak out, and I'm like, well, it's like I don't, I love the cards, like I'm not like constantly going, oh yeah, this is, I'm not keeping up with prices on these cards all the time. When there's a record sale, I'll know about it.
Yeah.
I monetary value is there. So yeah, would I love to do something in this space? Oh heck yes. I would love to be, work with PSA or work with another grading company or work with a company like Whatnot or eBay and do something in the collectibles world that really like rewards me, um, not just financially, but like what I can do, right? Imagine going to Collecticon for fun and being like a partnership manager for a company and being like bringing on people to like come send your stuff into eBay Vault, or eBay Live is going to happen where you're going to be able to sell live on eBay, right? Being able to bring new talent like that to the field, like that to me is fun. So
I also
yeah,
think
to
like
answer
we're
your,
in such early stages of like what is to come. Like I can't imagine like the landscape of like just trading cards alone has changed so much in just the past 3 years versus what it used to be. Like not even 3 years, the past 2 years, because the past 2 years has been definitely different than what it was in 2019. Like things are
oh yeah,
drastically different, and so like I'm very like I'm very positive and I'm very optimistic as to what things could be in the next, 4 or 5, even 10 years of this space. Like, I could take a break right now if I wanted to, and then just come back 10 years from now and just kind of see what is changed. Like, that'd be so cool, but I don't think I'll ever take a break. I think I think this is really cool.
yeah. I think your room's going to get a little bit more filled before you take a break.
Yeah. With
I
more
think you're missing.
toys.
I have some stuff that I think you need for your wall. Let's just put it. I have some posters you haven't probably seen in a long time.
Dude, there's a
I'll have to send
poster that Swole has, and I keep bugging him about it. It's like I want it,
you
and he
a
won't
World
sell.
Championship Mewtwo.
No, 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 no. This is of the Totodile for when Pokemon Center New York was a thing. So I
Yeah,
like Pokemon Center New York stuff just because it's a Pokemon Center that went defunct, and I want that. I want the clock. I want the statue. There's just stuff that I want. Uh, I just have a long list of wants, and I don't think I'm ever gonna be done with it. Which I think is still like the journey of it is still really cool. Um, I yeah, just to kind of close things out. If you don't have anything else to add, again, guys, I'm glad Josh, you were here to join us. I think you
thank
you
you.
you are going to provide, and you have brought a lot of value not only to me, but to our audience here and whoever watches this afterwards, or whoever comes back in the next 5 years just to watch this, just to see Josh, where has he come, like how far has
Yeah.
he come since then. I think that's really cool to have you here. Make sure you follow Pokemon underscore enthusiast 97 on Instagram, and just keep an eye out for any updates. Keep an eye out for the card that he's going to show. I don't know when he's going to show it. I don't know when it's going to come out to the public. You guys if you've been paying attention to social media, you might have saw a glimpse of it. But besides that, do you have anything else to add? Do you have anything else to plug in?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me come on and talk
Yeah, it's
about
an honor.
my growth within the hobby and what I do for fun in this hobby. Yeah, like I said, if anybody's open to grading, let me know.
Hit him up.
I'm
Don't
doing
hit me
I'm,
up. Hit him up.
doing a drop. I'm doing a drop off this week. I'm going tomorrow. But yeah, other than that, Shivam, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
I appreciate it. And again, my DMs are always open for you guys.
That's always good to hear. Before we close out this podcast, guys, I'm going to briefly talk about our sponsorships. Our sponsorships are the Pokemon Network. Ken Lee, he's this Asian guy who runs around with a Charizard onesie at all these shows. If you ever see him, talk to him, say hi, hello. He is your one-stop shop for everything that is affordable in the hobby, down to the most expensive stuff. Dude has pretty much everything. I don't know how or why he spends so much money on Pokemon, but he just manages to do it. Our other sponsors, TCG Stadium. TCG Stadium, Jimmy's son is always there to take care of us. He is, they have an online card shop out in Nashville. I'm sure they'll probably have something up for Nashville's convention coming up. They have a online card shop where they have Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh product. We'll kind of touch on a little bit about Yu-Gi-Oh here in a second. And the other sponsor is Double Infinity Gaming. Julie and Will are amazing people. They are, a huge wealth of knowledge when it comes to Magic the Gathering. They're amazing people. They run an online card shop based out of South Side, Florida. Definitely go check them out. Definitely go check them out on Instagram as well. Our unofficial sponsor is Collector. Collector is the most advanced portfolio tracking app there is. You can literally track multiple TCGs as well as Funkos as well as basketball cards. And there's going to be more sports cards coming up in the future. They're adding more and more as each day passes. They just hit a milestone. Join the Discord, follow them on Instagram, follow them on Twitter for more information. Today we were hit with news of Kazuki Takahashi from passing away at the age of 60 years old. Dude is a legend. He brought myself as well as many other people immense joy. He is someone that brought, my Saturday mornings so much joy, and it's such a shame that he passed away, and it's very, very sad. Do you have anything to add to that?
Honestly, when I heard of the news, I felt really bad, but I only played Yugi, quite frankly, from I think 2007 to like 2008. Played like a few years. I got out of Pokemon and I played that handful a bit, but I didn't even know who he was until I read up on it. I feel like it's really bad, and it's a big shock to essentially the Yu-Gi-Oh community because he was such a big figure for them. It's like Arita passing away for us, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be like a fair comparison.
Yeah, fair, Jason. Yeah,
might be wrong, but I feel like if Arita passed, it would be just like that, just as big.
Yeah, waves of sadness. I just remember growing up. I played Pokemon until like 2002. I collected Pokemon up till 2002, and then like right when I got into third grade, I played Yu-Gi-Oh. And I remember my mom taking me into this shop called Steve's Collectibles, and my mom bought me a Yugi starter deck, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I played it. I had my cards out. They were beat up. I even had them out on Saturday mornings while the anime showed on 4Kids Entertainment, which I thought was really cool. Guys, if you haven't collected or watched Yu-Gi-Oh, I highly implore you to watch the anime or just check out the card game. Just there's a lot of fun with it. But on that note, guys, we have a huge podcast coming up Saturday afternoon at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Mr. Fuji. He was just present in Logan Paul's video, but the dude is an absolute legend. I've been following him since he had 1,000 followers on Instagram, like since 2019.
Yeah.
Like the first post I saw him put up when I first came into the hobby was of him holding up a authentic Pikachu illustrated card in front of the Eiffel Tower. I was like, who is this guy? This guy is super freaking cool. I'm going to follow him. And, I've just learned a lot. I had the honor to meet him and hang out with him at Pokemon Saves the World. And it's just, dude is one of the most kindest people there is. I'm going to be asking him a bunch of different questions. Yeah, dude is just an impressive individual, and having him, and then I just had Hadoken Nito on the podcast not long ago. It'll be cool to have just him as well, and just give him the spotlight that he deserves, because I don't think a lot of proper credits were given on Logan Paul's video to people that were involved in that entire video right there. But that's pretty much it. On that note, if you don't have anything else to say, we're gonna go ahead and close out this podcast.
I'm good.
All right, guys. Again, make sure you follow Josh right here on Instagram at Pokemon_enthusiast97. And guys, I'm really looking forward to having that rebrand. You guys will see the logo here soon. Josh already saw it. He thought it was pretty cool. And yeah, I have PokeRev's editor doing that for me. So yeah, looking forward to it. And I'll see you guys Saturday afternoon at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.